Hello, 7th graders. In lesson 1.4, we're going to work on some real-world examples of adding and subtracting integers. So, example 1. A seal is swimming in the ocean 5 feet below sea level. It dives down 12 feet to catch some fish. Then, the seal swims 8 feet up towards the surface with its catch. What is the seal's final elevation relative to the sea level? It has this nice picture here on the right that demonstrates this for us. So the seal starts 5 feet below the sea level. Then it goes down 12 more feet, and then it comes back up 8. We're going to represent below sea level and swimming downward with negative integers. And then when it swims up, we're going to represent that as a positive. So the expression we can use to represent this is -5 minus 12 plus 8. So, step 1, we have our expression. Step 2, we're going to add or subtract from left to right to find the value of the expression. So, when we start at the left and move to the right, that means the first operation we're going to do is -5 minus 12, which is -17. Then we can add 8 and get -9. It might help to look at the number line to model this. So, we start at 5, then we move down 12, then we move back up 8. So we end right here at -9 feet, or 9 feet below sea level. All right, next example. Anna's in a cave 40 feet below the cave entrance. She descends, that means she goes down 13 feet, then ascends, or goes up 18 feet. Find her new position relative to the cave entrance. So we're going to start by writing an expression. She starts 40 feet below, or at -40 feet. She descends 13, or goes down 13, and then ascends, or goes back up 18. And then we're going to solve this left to right. So the first two, -40 minus 13, is going to be -53. And then we add 18, and -53 plus 18 is going to be -35. All right, in this next example, Irene has a checking account. On Monday, she writes a $160 check for groceries. Then she deposits $125. Finally, she writes another check for $40. What was the total change in the amount in Irene's account? So, let's analyze this a little bit. When Irene deposits money, she adds to that amount. When she writes a check, the money is deducted or subtracted. So we're going to make a plan. We're going to write an expression. We're going to use a positive integer for the amount she added, and then we're going to use negative integers for the checks she wrote. We'll represent it all as the sum. So first she writes a check for $160, meaning that's deducted. Then she deposited $125, and then she wrote another check for $40. So we have -160 plus $125 plus -$40. Now, before we find the sum, remember in 1.1 where we said the commutative property did work for negative numbers. So I see 2 negatives here and then 1 positive. In my mind, it's easier to add the negatives together before adding the positive. So I'm going to flip this 125 and -40 around so that I have -160 minus 40 plus 125. Also, those numbers make an even 200, so it'll be a little easier to deal with in the end. So -160 plus -40 is -200. Now I can add that positive number. -200 plus 125 is -75. So the amount in the account decreased by $75. All right, we're going to skip down to number 3 now. Alex wrote checks on Tuesday for $35 and $45. He also made a deposit in his checking account of $180. Find the overall change in the amount in his checking account. So remember when he deposits money, he adds to the account, and when he writes a check, the money is subtracted. So we're going to use negative numbers to represent the numbers that were on the checks. So let's write an expression. He wrote checks for 35 and 45. So we're going to start with negative 35 plus negative 45. He also made a deposit of $180. That is positive 180. So we want to find the overall change. We want to find the sum. So we have negative 35 plus negative 45 plus 180. Notice the negative numbers are first, so I'm going to start by adding those together. Negative 35 plus negative 45 is going to be negative 80. So now I have negative 80 plus 180, which is going to be positive 100, meaning Alex's account went up and increased by $100. All right, last example. The Tigers, a football team, must gain 10 yards in the next 4 plays to keep possession of the ball. If the Tigers lose 12 yards, gain 5 yards, lose 8 yards, and gain 14 yards, do they maintain possession of the ball? So we want to know if losing 12, gaining 5, losing 8, and gaining 14 is less than or greater than 10 yards. So when the team gains, in case you don't know football, when the team gains yards, you add that to the distance. When they lose yards, you subtract. So we're going to represent the gains as positive integers and the losses as negative integers. We're going to find the total change, and hopefully it's greater than or equal to 10, which means the team keeps possession of the ball. So first they lose 12 yards, it's negative 12. Then they gain 5, that's positive 5. Then they lose 8, that's a negative 8. And then they gain 14, that's a positive 14. So now we're going to solve negative 12 plus 5 minus 8 plus 14. And we can move them around so that the negatives and positives are together. You could just add this left to right if you wanted. As you see, the textbook moves them around. So they flipped the negative 8 and 5. So now I have negative 12 plus negative 8 plus 5 plus 14. So negative 12 plus negative 8 is negative 20, and 5 plus 14 is 19. So now I have negative 20 plus 19, which is negative 1. Unfortunately, negative 1 is less than 10, which means they gained less than 10 yards, so they do not maintain possession of the ball. All right, this is where I would like you to pause the video and see if you can do number 4 all by yourself, then play it back to see if you got it right. All right, Jim and Carla are scuba diving. Jim started out 10 feet below the surface. He descended 18 feet, rose 5 feet, and descended 12 more. Then he rested. Carla started out at the surface. She descended 20 feet, rose 5, descended another 18, and then rested. Which person rested at a greater depth? To solve this, we're going to set up 2 expressions. So we have one for Jim. I'll say this is J. We're going to represent the feet below and then the descended feet as negative integers, and then when they rise, it's going to be positive. So Jim starts out 10 below. We're going to represent that with a negative 10. He descended 18, rose 5, and descended 12 more. So we have negative 10 minus 18 plus 5 minus 12. Find the sum of all these. And our answer is going to be negative 35. So Jim is currently 35 feet below the surface. All right, then we're going to get another expression. I switch colors so you can see it here for Carla. Carla starts out at the surface, or she starts at 0. Then she descends 20 feet. We're going to represent that as a negative 20. And then rises 5 feet, and then descends another 18. So we have negative 20 plus 5 minus 18. Find the sum. And Carla is resting at negative 33 feet. She is 33 feet below the surface. Now the question asked which person rested at a greater depth. The answer would be Jim. Jim is currently 2 feet below Carla. All right, your homework today is to do numbers 1, 2, and 3, and then 4 through 9. So numbers 1 through 9 overall on page 28 of the textbook. The PDF is on Canvas if you prefer to do it in Notability.